I've got to ask this before you go. Who's the next YouTuber to be arrested?
But the moment you say anything like that, they're going, oh, that's racist.
It's a friend of ours, Craig Houston, up in Scotland, was arrested last weekend or weekend just gone.
Those YouTubers that are being arrested all tend to be YouTubers with a slightly right of centre view.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's returning and still amazing guest is Foxy from Silver Fox Hot Takes. How you doing, Foxy?
I'm doing very well, Nick, and it's always a pleasure to come on and do these things with you. We have a good time, good chats. Although we've got a hell of a story, haven't we, today?
We have. Most people watching this will probably have heard about this because it's a friend of ours, Craig Houston, up in Scotland, was arrested last weekend or weekend just gone. Again, like you, for freedom, well, because he hasn't got freedom of speech, Miscommunication Act, hate speech, racism, they throw all these things at us, and they seem to keep arresting YouTubers. Are we being targeted? Because we've joked, we were in a private WhatsApp group with some other YouTubers, and we're joking now, all of us, that who's going to be next? Because 50% of this group now have been arrested recently.
Yeah, what I noticed, before we get into the depth of that, I'm just going to say what I do notice is those YouTubers that are being arrested all tend to be YouTubers with a slightly right of centre view. You never see someone on the left being arrested. You never see someone who's pushing government agenda being arrested, no matter how hate-filled what they're saying is. It's almost as though there's an agenda, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but of course for us, it's obvious political one. Now, I've done my story several times, so don't really go into too much depth on that. But like Craig, I felt it was politically based, and Craig's again undoubtedly politically based, mainly because of who he was highlighting in the video. And I'm only going to say highlighting. He wasn't attacking. Probably hear my dog in the background there. He wasn't attacking the person in question. He wasn't criticizing her. He was commenting rather on her own words. And within the context of his video, he actually played a small video of her saying those words, where she was ageist, racist, and sexist. And yet that was deemed acceptable. But for him to report on what she was saying was deemed to be hate speech, racism, because how dare you criticize a Muslim woman MSP or a counsellor? Sorry. And yet she isn't getting any kind of censure for the hate speech she gave that he reported. And of course, that's why it's all one-sided, deeply political, and it makes you wonder who reported him.
Oh, absolutely. I've got no issue with what she said. As far as I'm concerned, she's entitled to be racist, ageist, and sexist because that's called freedom of speech. Craig just pointed out what she said, and we're not allowed to point out what elected officials are saying. I mean, this is worse than 1984 now. I mean, this is becoming surreal that we're not allowed to point out what elected politicians are saying about a certain demographic in the country. Isn't that what journalism is about? Isn't that what we try to do on our YouTube channel? Sometimes poorly, sometimes incorrectly, but aren't we always trying to point out what people are saying, what people are doing? Isn't that the basis of journalism?
Well, you, I, Preston, Craig, Andy the Gabby Cavy, Paz 49, Tusi, we all do the same thing. We take what is happening in the world, we look at it, and we present it. You present it in different ways. We have different presenting styles, but we're not making it up. No one is sitting there generating fake news. We are looking at what is actually happening and commenting on the veracity of what's happening. Our comments are then taken as being terrible, even though we're reporting the truth. And so what we've got now is a regime that treats truth as the enemy. As well it might, because for this regime especially, truth would be devastating. If we, if the total truth about Starmer ever came out, he'd be done. And so that's why they're all trying this desperately to cover it up. Now, and I know, and we hear things, don't we, that we can never put out because, the liability against us if we said these things without proof would be different. But we hear the rumors. We hear things about Starmer, and you're thinking, why are the mainstream media not going after that? Why, when you do hear things about Starmer in the general public know about, why aren't the mainstream media going after that, picking at the scabs? Because mainstream media now is access media. If you say anything bad against us, we're not going to invite you to our press conferences. So you've got to be on our side or you're done. And so we don't have investigative journalism anymore. We've got constant soft soaping. We've got back scratching, one hand washing the other. And nobody is investigating or even willing to tell the truth. So that when we do, boom, the whole power of the law comes down at us.
Me and you are old enough to remember when we had real investigatory journalism in the UK. I remember times where journalists would pretend to be other people and set politicians up just so we could hear what they would say if they were in a situation where they were offered money or offered sex or offered drugs. I don't think journalists are allowed to do that anymore, but then that just gives our elected politicians free rein to do whatever they want. That's what we need a really good press for, is to investigate the elite, the powerful, the rich, and do things that we can't do. Without that, they run riot, and that's why they're running riot at the moment, because they fear nobody, because the press have been beaten, the press have been bought off, the press have been promised better promotions, better jobs when you leave the Daily Mail or whatever, and the BBC.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, we're old enough. I remember when every Sunday, the News of the World, a terrible publication, but the politicians were afraid of the News of the World because they'd got hold of something and they'd been trailing it in the Sun all week, this Sunday, such and such, full details. And then you get there on the Sunday morning, you can see them and the fear on their faces as reading it. The Daily Telegraph was notorious, especially for sort of political intrigue and the money side of it. They would nail people. Even the Mail back in the day was formidable. The Mail now is a hack rag. And when you look at the bylines, there only seems to be about 6 people working for these newspapers now. And all they're doing is sifting other people's news and coalescing it and presenting it as their own. But it isn't their own, because the papers aren't what they were. They don't have big teams of staffers. They don't have hundreds of journalists all over the world bringing the news in, because it's all different now. And I get that it's different. But surely you should still investigate. You should still hold a mirror up to truth. All these lot are doing is polishing the boots and lick spittling in order to keep being invited to various press and, beanos and things. Oh, yes, we're doing this, Lord. Come along, drink champagne, eat the canapes, say nice things, and we can come to another one. And so they've bought in. Now, that's the other problem, of course, if I may, just as a little aside. The government can control broadcast television and it can control broadcast media, and it can control printed media. The one thing they can't control is this. You and me on YouTube. They can't control the internet. By God, they're trying. They want to. But, once, let's say I had a story. It was a big story. It was a massive story. And I knew if I put it out in this country, I'd be in deep trouble. But there's nothing stopping me telling a guy in, Borneo, pick a random place, run with this story. And he puts that story out. Well, what can the government do? He's some random nobody in a foreign country halfway around the world, outside of British jurisdiction. And the story's broken. It's in the public domain. And once it's in the public domain, everyone else can latch onto that story. That's how you get around these things now. Get the story leaked from outside of the jurisdiction. And then this government can do nothing. And that's exactly what's starting to happen now. Foreigners are releasing stories about our politicians so that we can pick it up and run with it.
Isn't that how we destroyed the Soviet Union? By people in the Soviet Union leaking their stories out of the Soviet Union. Now I've said that out loud. We're in a mess, aren't we? Aren't we in a mess, Foxy, that we're now comparing ourselves to the Soviet Union because that's the only way we can get stories out there.
Fewer people are arrested in Russia, which has a population of, what, 200 million? Fewer people arrested in Russia for saying things online than in Britain, with a third of the population. Far more people arrested here than in the whole of Russia. And you'd think Russia would be more of a clampdown. No.
The last figures I
Weird, isn't it? When you think, I might move to Russia so I can enjoy the benefits of free speech.
yes, I never 5 years ago I'd have said you'd been drinking there, saying something as crazy as that, but it turns out to be true. The last figures I seen was we're arresting approximately 1,000 people a month for posting stuff, and Russia arrests something like 1,000 people a year, and we're doing that a month. And they've got a huge population compared to ours.
Yeah. And they can't just send one policewoman around going, oh, we have a little complaint, blah, 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 about this post. If it's bad, then have a word. Oh, no. You have to have a paddy wagon turn up, 4 cars, 16 policemen, all to arrest a man. I mean, there was the guy the other day. I mean, this is how bad the police are now. There was a guy the other day, you might have seen this story. He was paraplegic. He's in a wheelchair, limited mobility, oxygen mask, and the police came, broke down his door to get into him because someone had alleged that he'd kicked their car. I mean,
I didn't see that.
What a marvellous recovery from being a paraplegic in a wheelchair, that he was able to get up, run down the street, kick a car, and run back, get in his wheelchair before anyone noticed. Kicking his door down and arresting him. Didn't they walk in and go, oh, no, they arrested him.
Yeah. It's, I missed that story. I don't know how I missed that story. But we can't get the police to turn up to most crimes, but they can turn up to that crime.
Oh, yeah. Lots of them. And lots of them at once, Nick.
Yeah. Criminal damage is serious. We need to take criminal damage seriously. I'm not saying it's not a serious crime, but it's the training of police these days is absolutely shocking. Now, going back to YouTube, you were arrested a couple of months ago. Craig was arrested a few days ago. It sends a chilling effect throughout the YouTube community. My wife has been extremely worried about it over the weekend because she's saying to me, please be careful. What should I do if you're arrested next? And even though we may not think it affects us, subconsciously it does. It makes us all go, should I talk about this? Should I use those words? We get pressure from our external family members and friends. I've got pressure off my wife now. And it sends that effect through the community. And that is part of what they're trying to do. They're trying to, don't forget, me, you, Craig, Preston, we're just normal guys. We're not freedom fighters. You know, we're just normal guys chatting online. We're quite easy to scare. And that's what they're doing. And it's working. You know, we are more fearful now than we were a year ago.
Sorry, my phone just went off there. I killed it. Yeah, no, we are. You have to monitor everything. My wife I'll be sitting there doing a piece to camera. And my wife, when I finish it, goes, oh, I'll do that again. Why, you're a bit heavy there on that. Was I play it back? And I'm thinking, no, probably all right. But then I'll do it again anyway, just to soften it a little bit, things like that. When she's not there, I just go straight out because I don't have, the little devil and angel on your shoulders, do it. Don't do it. But you have that. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, shall I put it out? And then I listen back and I make sure it's safe, and I make sure that if I'm gonna vent, and let's take, for example, immigration, and I make sure that if I'm gonna vent, I'm not venting at the immigrants, I'm venting at the government. But here's the thing, Nick, that's all I've ever done. And when you saw the videos I put out, I never have a go at the immigrants themselves. I have a go at the system that allows them to come over. The immigrants are human beings. I get that, and it's sad when they die. Nobody needs to die to get across a bit of water. I'm not I'm not an animal like that. I'm not evil, but I'm angry at the system that allows it to happen, because the system is killing people, and it's also damaging us as a nation. And yet we've got constant government after government not allowing it. But the moment you say anything like that, they're going, oh, that's racist. No, my venting isn't at the immigrants, it's at the government. And that's why I'm being prosecuted for public order inciting racism. I'm not. I'm inciting, let's get rid of the government. But not this government, not the last government, all of them, because they're all bloody useless. Tories did it. Labour before that did it. Labour now are doing it. Where's the racism? There isn't any. It's anger at government. But they're going to get me on that. Now, again, when you look at Craig, there was zero racism in that post. I watched that posting. There was no racism at all. And yet that's where they're going. Because, the victim, they're calling her the victim. She wasn't the victim. She was the one standing there saying that people like me shouldn't be politicians because I'm pale, stale, and male. And proud of it. I don't give a shit. If they don't like me, their problem is they are racist. But you can't say that. I just have, by the way, but you can't say that, or you get a knock at the door. I'll wait. I'll hear the sound of sirens, whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police,
I'll have to bleep all that out. I bleeped nothing. I think I
stand on this hill.
Yeah, I think I bleeped something once because YouTube took it down because someone complained of defamation or something, and I was quite happy with it. But YouTube took it down, so I had to bleep out the person's name and re-upload it, and YouTube took it. But I didn't want to do it. I wouldn't have done it. I think the fact they're coming after us and the fact they're clamping down is actually a good sign. It's a good sign of how scared the establishment are, how worried they are about our voices. And if they're worried about people like me and you, then they're in deep trouble. If me and you are scaring them with our tiny platforms in the grand scheme of things and our reach in the grand scheme of things and what we're saying, if they're scared of me and you and Craig and Preston, then I'm telling you, they're in a bad situation to be in. And this is what always happens at the end of a dictatorship or an authoritarian regime. They get tougher and tougher and more terrible towards the end because it's the only way to keep the people in their place. And they're losing all the time. I think I've said to this before. There is a bit in Star Wars where Princess Leia says to Darth Vader's boss, the tighter you grip, the more solar systems will slip through your fingers. And that's exactly what's happening here now.
Yeah, I mean, they come after us because we're small and we're easy. We are the low-hanging fruit. But then you get the guys up there with 8 million subs. They can't come after them because the power there, because these guys have got whole legal teams. We haven't got a legal team. But these guys have got whole legal teams and layers and everything there, and they got the full checkers there. They can't go after them. They have the resources. So they come after us to send the message. But the message they're sending is, hey guys, we're scared. We're scared of the people. We're scared of people like me, like you, like Craig, like Preston, like Andy, like Paz. They're scared of us because we are saying what people agree with, and we're not afraid to say it, but they don't want us saying it because for them, as I say, the truth is inconvenient. It really is. And when you are the ones telling the truth unto power, and power doesn't like it, power will clamp down. Now, I don't know what they're going to do next. I'm expected to... Now, unlike Craig, just an aside, Craig's got a court date. He's going 3rd of July, I believe, Sheriff's Court. I haven't been given a court date yet. They're dragging mine out. And I think, again, it's because there's nothing they can hang a hat on it. So even if it does, I don't think it will now. I think it's been so long, I don't think it will go. But even if it does, I'm doing what happened to Tommy Robinson today, by the way, elect for a jury trial. Because you're never going to get prosecuted on a jury trial. You never get found guilty. No one has ever been found guilty at a jury trial or anything like this. And Tommy Robinson will get off, and I know I will. So, this is one of the reasons, Nick, again, with the totalitarian state, this is why they're so keen to get rid of juries. Juries are uncontrollable. They can control judges, they can control lawyers, they can't control juries. They don't like that. And juries are the last safeguard against tyranny. But it helps that we stand up to tyranny too. You said we're not freedom fighters. We never started as. But you know what? I think we're starting to become freedom fighters by constantly pushing what we're saying. And not me. I'm not big-headed and narcissistic. I don't mean us being you. I mean us, the people on YouTube, because it's the last vestige of truth.
No, I completely agree. And what I've always said is, I don't want to be a coward. I don't want to be brave or a hero. That's something different. I don't want to be a coward. A coward is someone who knows what they should do, but doesn't do it out of fear. Being a hero or being brave is doing something you know needs to be done and you don't mind taking the consequences for it. That's something different. I just don't want to be a coward. So, and that's why I do what I do.
You know, when I was in the army, a sergeant once said to me what true bravery is. He's saying knowing something has to be done and knowing you don't want to do it and doing it anyway. He says that's bravery. And that's where we are. We're not heroes, you know, we're not out there saving the world. We're just blokes saying how we see the world. But for us, that's actually turning out. Who'd have thought it turning out to be a brave thing to do in our brave new world?
No, absolutely. And I think that also we are low hanging fruit, but another reason why they come for people like us is because we're everyday people. So the people who watch us are looking at us going, he's just like me. He's my neighbor. I work with someone just like him. And I'm agreeing with everything he has to say. It's when you look at someone like, Jordan Peterson, who I like, when we're watching Jordan Peterson, we're never going, he's just like me, because because he's different. He's Canadian, he's highly academic.
Very clever. Forensically minded, isn't he, Nick?
So we don't think he's like us and we're like him. We just like what he's telling us because he explains it in a better way. But me and you, we're just like everybody else. So therefore, we validate what they're thinking. We validate their opinions, their views, because we're talking about it and we're not evil. We're not animals. So therefore, it must be okay to talk about these things. And that's where the government go. We don't want anyone talking about these things.
Yeah, we're just average Joe, aren't we? We're just sitting there. We're not special. We're man of the street. You look at your your figures there. You see your age groups, because for those who don't know, YouTube gives you so much data and it breaks down who's watching when, where, why, what, and everything. But at your audience, you're looking at the analysis. And who do you think my audience are? It's people that are 40 plus. It's predominantly male and predominantly British. So 40 plus white British males. Well, who'd have thought that all these 40 plus white British males are watching 40 plus white British males moaning? But we're moaning the very words that they think, because they're looking at us going, oh, right, yeah. I agree with that. I agree. We see the feed. We see the feed and the message. You get arseholes, of course you do. You get people complaining. You get insults. And, you bear with it. You got thick skin. Sometimes, and genuinely, you'll get someone who disagrees with you, but it isn't nasty about it. Go, well, I watched your video. I've got to say I disagree because this, that, and the other. But hey, have a nice day. And that's refreshing, because normally it's just, if they disagree with you, it goes straight to hate. It isn't just, I disagree with you. It's straight to hate you. But sometimes you get a nice disagreement, and I like them because at least they've had the honesty, and of course they've watched, which is also excellent, isn't it? But most of what I get is people agreeing, and that means that there's an awful lot of people out there, Nick, like you, like me, that think as we think, believe as we believe, and want the world to change, not to go back. I mean, you can't go back. Nostalgia is a terrible thing, and the world isn't better 20 years ago, because medicine wasn't so good, the technology wasn't so good, and so forth. But you want to move forward, but you want to move forward into an area where if we're going to have freedoms, we've got to have full freedoms, not the limited freedoms that we're being allowed to have by a monolithic Marxist government.
Yeah. One of the most popular comments I get as a positive comment is people say to me, talking about me, you vocalize what I'm thinking, but I've never had the words to express. And that's probably what the number one comment to me is I'm thinking just the same. I never had the words to be able to put out there how I feel and why I feel it. It's all innate, it's instinct, and you vocalize it, and I go, that's how I think. That's why I think that.
Oh yeah, I've had that. I've had that where people have said to me, "You say out loud how I feel." Yeah, it says, and I can't say those words out loud because of the situation I'm in. It says when I watch you, and there's lots. This isn't just one or two. This is lots of people saying this. That they say they can't say the things I say, but they're bloody glad I'm saying them because they sit there going inwardly, yeah, 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 I agree with that. Thank God I'm not alone in thinking that, because a lot of people sort of think, am I weird for thinking the way I think now because world changing? And turns out, no, you're absolutely fine.
Before we go, let's end with, is this going to get worse for YouTubers? And what else the government going to do to try to curtail people's free speech, the limited free speech we have left?
I don't think it's going to get worse for YouTubers. I honestly think it will get better. And the reason is, there's now everyone knows you don't vote, you don't say guilty, you don't plead guilty. Everyone knows now if you go guilty, you're going to get time. So you go not guilty, and you're not guilty all the way. It goes up to court, it goes to a jury, and you get off. And that once those figures start happening, and once every YouTuber who goes to court gets off, the government are going to back down because it's just going to be a waste, and people question that. But also, the more they do it, the more it's highlighting the weakness of the government and the fear in the government. Why do you keep going after these people? Oh, it's because we're scared of them. And they're never going to say that, but that's how people are going to react. And I tell you what, that's how you and me are going to present it as well, and every other YouTuber, because it's true. So I think for YouTubers, it's probably going to get easier for that. On the grander scheme of free speech, that's where I'm more concerned. That's where I think there may be legislation, tighter legislation, about what you can say, what you can't say. But that's fine because you can just use metaphor. Instead of saying a particular religious group, you could say the people, the people of X or whatever you can call them. You don't have to call anything by its name, and people will instinctively know without saying the words. And if you're not saying the words, then you can't be guilty of using and misusing the words. So I think our language may have to change to be more metaphorical to get around it. But I think YouTubers are actually going to be safer. But the rest of Britain, it's going to be Britain, isn't it? The rest of Britain might have far more restrictions on. They're already talking about the banter police, for example, in pubs and bars and things. They haven't got enough people to deal with this, have they? They'd be overwhelmed in a week. 10 million reports a week. I tell you the problem. You mentioned something earlier, and it's just clicked in my head. You said something about police training. I'm going to tell you the big problem with police training. In the old days, it used to be a lot of ex-military, a lot of big fellas, and they'd go down to Hendon, and they'd have guys on the job for 20 years teaching them. Nowadays, they're all coming out of uni. They've got a degree in criminology. They haven't got a clue. The two that arrested me, the little ones, there was a big fella at the back, but the two little ones that arrested me was a bare-faced boy. I don't think he'd ever shaved, and he was about 5'4". No, he's about 5'7". He was 5'7", and a little girl who was about 5'4". And honestly, I could have picked the little girl up one-handed. And they're sending that out to arrest. Now, me, I'm come on, I'm an old man now. I'm 58. I'm not going to put up any resistance. But they're going to put someone like that out to arrest some 6'6", 30-year-old bodybuilder type. You just pick them up like barbells, bang their head together, and throw them in the corner. What use is that? Royal Ulster Constabulary, before it was changed to the police service in Northern Ireland, had a rule. Policemen had to be 6 foot plus. And it worked. Imagine every copper was 6 foot. I tell you, it'd be a lot less problems. That's what we need. We need to put fear back into people. But, turning up on hand, mob-handed, special patrol group, just to arrest one fat, middle-aged old white man for saying wrong words, wrong speak, double wrong think. It is 1984, isn't it?
It is. I've got to ask this before you go. Who's the next YouTuber to be arrested?
in our group,
in any.
I was going to say if it's our group, it's a toss-up. Well, it's only. I would suggest that probably Preston, then you, then Andy the Gabby. But yeah, I mean they're there. But out there, it could be any. I'm surprised Tootsie hasn't been arrested yet.
Well, they don't want to arrest him. They want him dead. Leaking his address and stuff like that. Absolutely disgraceful. They want him gone. They don't want him arrested. He'd be just as much of a pain arrested than he was unarrested. Dead. End of the problem.
Dan Wootton, he's another one I think sails close to the wind.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Oh God, she was already done and busted. Katie Hopkins. I admit, I love Katie. The little pieces to camera. She walks along, batshit bonkers, brilliant, but she's brilliant at it. She calls it again. She calls it. She's seen it. You know. You said let them sue me. They've sued me once. I haven't got anything left.
Yeah. Foxy, thank you so much for popping on today. We've laughed at this, but it is serious because we are losing our free speech. But the good news is we're not giving up. No one's giving up. And we've got the government on the back foot. That's why they're so authoritarian at the moment. It's a good sign. And one or two more years getting over this, and maybe this country could start healing.
Yeah, I think it needs change. And we've got a character, mate. We've just got to keep fighting the good fight. Thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome. Catch up again soon.
Take care. Bye.